Hey everybody, it looks like we're live, we're on air.
We are
Welcome
live.
everybody from Kickstarter World.
Oh
I'm
man. Cross campaign, cross campaign stretch goal
around the world, videos
from Germany to
streaming.
Los Angeles, ladies and gentlemen.
So
Really awesome.
I'm Jason Brubaker. I got the
I'm
server
Daniel
thing going
Lieske.
on.
Hi.
Um,
And it looks like we're just going to stream out to our backers. Right now I have actually no idea how many people are watching,
yeah, I don't
but
either.
I'm so excited.
So welcome everybody. There's a question and answer comment section on the side of the homepage of the event, and you guys can text in questions there that we will start answering probably in 15-20 minutes or so. And
Yeah. Hey,
then
it's Deirdre! In
well, hello,
the Q&A. Hi,
the first
Deirdre!
one. and
Cool.
then in
So
about
go
20
on.
minutes we'll let everybody join us. So that's what we got right now. And I want to give a special thanks to Adam, who's the Making Comics Gutter Talk host, who is setting this all up and moderating and helping us out so that we don't have to think about any of that stuff. It's
All
your turn,
right.
Daniel. Go.
Jason, what do you think? Should we shed some light on our history that we have together, so that people get an idea? I guess we both talked about it in our updates on Kickstarter, but now we have some time to get a little bit into the history, to dig up some of the old stuff, get a little bit nostalgia here going on.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea.
We are going back as far as, if I'm not wrong, 2010 it was.
I think so. Maybe earlier. Maybe 2009. I know that's when I launched. Remind was in 2009
Yeah.
online.
And you also
Um,
launched an internet forum called Making Graphic Novels.
yeah. Yep.
And by the way, does this still exist?
No, I pulled the plug
No.
on it because I was just, once you launch 14 different things, you can't manage any of them.
All
And
right.
so that was the problem.
Okay,
So,
I thought I was just too dumb to find it, but okay, then
no.
the plug was pulled. Well,
But
and
it,
this
it
was,
kind of
but yeah.
it kind of converted into the makingcomics.com, which was our podcast that we started
Yeah.
together.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then that has changed hands now to Patrick Urich. I think that's how you say his last name. Sorry, Patrick. Hi. And he is kind of the manager now of Making Comics. And I think they have a forum on there now. So that might be what you're thinking of.
Because that, for me, it started with this forum somehow, if I remember right, because it's really
Really?
some years back now, and you know my mind, I'm getting old and stuff like that. But because I totally was a forum guy, always, all my life. When I started my first job in the computer games industry in 1999, the first thing I kind of did was starting a German forum for game artists.
Yeah, that's right.
And since then, I was a complete forum guy, which is, I guess, today it's very old school to post in forums and stuff like that.
Do you still have
But
that German forum?
I haven't pulled the plug on it yet, but personally I have nearly abandoned it for the last three years because I just have no time to
Yeah.
post on forums anymore.
Yeah.
But in the time when I found Making Graphic Novels, the forum, I was at the height of well, I just was into forums and the whole lifestyle of reading a lot of threads and posting long posts and stuff like that. And this was my first memory of where we started to communicate, because in the forum you answer questions and you engage in discussions, you show your artwork, and there for me it really started. And you're right, we had a podcast together then, although I don't really know when that started, but it's quite some time, yeah, in the past, I would
Yeah.
say.
I seem to think it was 2011 when we did the first episode. I could be wrong.
Hmm. Oh boy, yes. Then it was the first year after my project launched. When did Remind launch exactly? Do you remember the exact
Well,
day?
the website, you mean?
Yeah, yeah, the comic.
The comic, well, it was late 2009. I think it was November maybe 2009.
Oh, really?
And that's when I really started, like, finding other web comics and stuff,
Yeah.
because it was like, how are people doing this? How are bloggers doing this? I don't even know. There's
Yeah.
forums. How
Yeah.
do you comment on a forum?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, then the book, I published the first book in 2011 for Remind, the first volume. So that's when things really started taking off for me, I guess, because people actually saw the book, and the Kickstarter campaign that was like the first year that Kickstarter was around, and it was kind of shocking how much you could raise. At that time it was like 12,000 that I raised, and it just blew my mind. Like,
Oh,
12,000, I wanted 3 and I got 12. How's this possible? I didn't even think I could get 3. So.
and that is very interesting, because your Kickstarter campaign and following your whole process and how you arrived at that was absolutely the inspiration for myself to have a Kickstarter campaign myself. The first Kickstarter campaign in 2011, March 2011, for the Wormworld Saga app, which is history now. And your campaign really was, for me, the starting point where I said, yes, now I have an audience. I had an audience for only 3 months, but it was pretty sizable at this time. And seeing what you did with your first Kickstarter campaign totally inspired me to trust it, to try it on my own. Although it was really hard for me, because especially at that time, you could only start Kickstarter campaigns from the US. And a funny fact behind the scenes is that I had my campaign completely set up with everything, with video and stuff. And it was 2 days before I wanted to start, and then I realized that I couldn't start the campaign because I'm not a US citizen.
Oh.
And this was a real. I was in panic mode for a few hours, and then I talked to my agent, Dave Baxter, who I found through the Making Graphic Novels forum.
Oh, that's right.
Contacted me after seeing stuff I posted there, and he said, "Yo, no problem. We will do it through my account." And he did this several times with other clients from Europe and stuff, and then I could relax for a little bit. But this was really a very exciting times back then on Kickstarter. It was very new and stuff like that.
Yeah, just the idea that you could put a long format comic online, grow an audience, and pay for the funding of it was just like, I mean, I saw web comics do it, with the gag a day things, but I never saw, like a long format type book be successful, like really successful. So
yeah,
I think that's kind of what attracted us to each other, is like we were both doing it, but in a different format. And you've probably noticed I've been inspired by your long scrolling format with what I've done with Cithra Online. I kind of broke it into shorter chunks, but you really inspired how I went forward with that. It makes it a big hassle for converting it to book, though.
Oh boy!
I'm like, maybe I won't do this going forward, but.
But I can totally see it. And on the other hand, the way you mix prose and classic comic formatting in Cithra also is very inspirational for me now, because I always and if you look at the now 6 chapters of the Wormworld Saga, you will see that I'm experimenting a lot with the narration, because in the first 3 chapters the narrator voice was very prominent and was always there sometimes, and now in chapter 5 in chapter 6 there's no narrator at all, and in chapter 5 only sporadically, and I totally can see why you would want to have this element which is not, in your case, is not necessarily a narrator, but it's just a prose version, a prose point of view on the story. And there are points in a story where this prose point of view is very useful.
Yeah.
Because you can, in a very economic way, put things into perspective, and through narration can tell a lot of the story without having to picture it out, and it's really interesting to see. And I'm really excited to see how it will be how it will feel in the printed version later.
Yeah.
Which
I'm excited to see how it goes in future books, because it's really kind of a tool I've been using to kind of explore different things that are really difficult to do in graphic novels but are easy to do in novels, like getting into the character's mind more. I mean, I could just have a narration of what the character's thinking, but there's a lot of stuff, and maybe there's points in the story where I want the audience to just visualize something and not give it to them. I want them to think about it and create it in their mind, and so it really allows me to do that sort of thing, I think. And it seems to me like a lot of people wish that this was possible, to mix prose and graphic novel. It seems to me like the more I talk to people about it, it seems like everyone has that on their mind. Why isn't this done yet? And I've seen some experiments with it, but I haven't seen any that I consider real successful. So this was kind of me just saying, I'm gonna jump in.
Yeah. It gets very tiresome when you see that in a comic, the writer obviously doesn't really care for the graphic aspect of a story, and you have those huge word balloons with prose in it, and then just the head sticking to it, so that it keeps to be a comic. And I think the way you handle it is much more elegant, and it does not betray the reader, because you have the comic parts, they are pure comic. They don't have overloaded word balloons and stuff, and if you really want to dive into the prose point of view, you can do it without harming the comic aesthetic. It's a really cool thing, and I'm really looking forward to see how you develop it, because that is my guess, that you're still in an experimental phase with it.
Oh yeah,
you want to see how it develops and how you can use it and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a complete experiment, and I figure, if this story takes me, 5 or 6 or 7 books, by the time I get done with it, it'll probably be quite a bit evolved from where it is now. And hopefully I'll have it fine-tuned, to where I'm like, yes, this is how I want to, this is what works, and this is what doesn't work,
Right.
So anyway, well, I'm glad you like it. I haven't talked to you about that specific part of Cithra, so it's cool to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, now, we actually haven't talked in quite some time, because we are also busy, aren't we?
I know. We have an email every 6 months. Hi, we need to really do another video call. Yeah, let's do it. And then 6 months pass.
Right. So actually, we have to thank our backers that they unlocked this cross-campaign stretch goal that forced us to now team up and make this video call, which is just plain fun.
Yeah, and this was a backer-suggested stretch goal too, which is really cool.
Well, where would we be without our backers? No, really.
I'm sad and
sad and alone and no ideas and stuff like that. No, really. I'm really happy that this worked out, and actually, I'm very happy that you were able to do this in time before my campaign ends. Your campaign still has some time left, but my campaign ends in 2 days on Tuesday, and it's really cool that we have this before the campaign ends, because now we can get this cool atmosphere that currently is in the campaign on the last few days, which always is very special.
Yeah.
And this closing doors atmosphere, you get a little sad that it will end, but you also look forward to a day where you don't have to where the first thing you do in the morning is not to reach to your smartphone and see what happened overnight when you were sleeping.
Yeah.
It's such a crazy thing, isn't it? Let's talk for a few minutes about our experience with Kickstarter. It is hell and heaven at the same time, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's bliss and torment.
Yes. And this is
Exactly.
actually, this is not to sound like to play down something, because everyone knows, oh yes, guys, it's so hard to just sit there and wait the money flowing in. Man, is that hard job? No,
Quit
no, it really
complaining.
is.
Yeah.
It really is tormenting. It is, and I talked to my wife about it, because I think Kickstarter plays on some human behavioral patterns that are not really the best behavioral patterns of human
Yeah.
nature, if you know what I mean, because
Yeah.
it's playing with your greed that
Yeah. It totally is.
somehow is planted in everyone, and of course you don't want to admit it to yourself, but you see it in yourself when you look at this at the funding level after waking up, or during the day, and you feel disappointed when there were only 2 pledges over 4 hours or stuff like that, and then you come to your mind and say, man, stop it, look at the level you've reached, and
Yeah.
that it's so hard.
Yeah.
It's ah you
I know.
exactly, you know exactly what I'm talking about,
It makes
aren't
you
you?
go like, I am so not grateful for anything, like because you're like fighting this thing in your mind, and you're like more, more, and then you're like, no, this is enough. No,
Yes.
should I do this? I think if someone were to do a Kickstarter campaign like nonstop for a year, they would die.
Yes.
That's my
Yeah.
opinion. It's too
Yes.
much.
It's like
But
these sugar pills, where the rats push the button and then they get a sugar pill, and they just do it all the time, and it's
yeah, it's
ah
just, but yeah, it's the most exciting rush of the whole publishing thing for me. It has been on these Kickstarter campaigns, though, because that's
mm,
when like you see the communication with fans the most, and you see when you see people actually supporting it, you're like, wow, this is actually happening. That you see a real connection with some, the number of people that are contributing that you don't even know, which is such a bizarre concept. You put like we have like you have like what 800 people. That's more
yeah.
people than I went to high school with. And I think of that whole auditorium full of people. It's a bizarre thing to think
It's
about.
interesting that you're mentioning it. I guess in one post, when I had a cold and I was lying in bed for a day, and was kind of stuck there and couldn't do anything, I think it was the first time when I actually tried to visualize this. Because 800 people, if you visualize it, it's just amazing. It's just imagine you would try to give everyone the hand, and say hello and thank you in person. It would take hours,
Yeah.
and it's such a it really it is a bizarre construction, this, and also that I think it's a very, very cool thing, because in traditional publishing you have this, everything is the other way around, because you're producing, and then you're distributing, and then the stuff lands in the bookstores, and then this slow mechanism starts where people pick up your book and buy it, and after half a year you get information how many books were sold, and stuff like that. And it's very slow and disconnected. And in the Kickstarter model is completely on its head, because the first thing you find out is how many people like your work and how many people want to have the book.
Yeah.
And this is really awesome,
Yeah.
because I think this way the most important thing is put to the front.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the very first thing
Because
and the most important thing.
those numbers are so deceptive online. You say, oh, I have 10,000 people that visited my website, and
Yeah.
there's so many of those are unique visitors, and you think, okay, well, if 2% actually buy it, then that's this many. But man, when the rubber hits the road, that number is always smaller than what you think, at least in my mind.
No,
Uh,
absolutely.
because most of the time you hear on blogs and stuff like 1 to 2% of your mailing list or something is someone who will buy something. And so it's like when you actually launch it and you actually see what that actual number is, that's when the truth comes out, you know.
Yeah. That's very true. And actually, in the last 4 weeks, I set myself a goal. I did a lot of experiments concerning exactly this, the question, what exactly are all these numbers worth? Because I'm keeping track of how many people are following on Facebook, how many people are following on Twitter, and what is the effect of it? What in the effect on the traffic of the website, the effect of the traffic of the Kickstarter site, the number of backers that came from these different sources, and it's very enlightening to see where exactly the people come from, and it's actually very sad that a large percentage of pledges on Kickstarter are not you're not able to keep track of them, where they actually came from. I think in my campaign it's about 30% or something like that, where you can't actually say where they came from.
Yeah.
And that's a huge hole, because you don't actually know. But this is very interesting, and my plan is to, when I have collected all this data, I had one very specific experiment. We had the experiment, what happens if your comic gets into the top 10 of topwebcomics.com?
Yeah, I was really curious about that.
Yeah, that was a really interesting experiment, and I can give you a little spoiler here. I want to put this all into a large article and publish it somewhere this year. But to spoil this one fact, which was really interesting for me to see, the day we rated top webcomics, so to say, my Twitter, my constant Twitter barrage of tweets and Facebook postings every hour sent about 250 people to vote on this day.
Wow.
To top webcomics.
Okay.
And being in the top 10 sent about 200 people to my comic.
Wow.
So if I actually had sent all these people via Twitter and Facebook to my website, I would have had more hits than through the top webcomic thing. Okay, you have to see this in relation, because I stayed for a few days in the upper field on top webcomics, but the descent was very fast after my Twitter and Facebook stuff stopped. Yeah. And I think I haven't checked the latest number, but I guess it might be 500 people or something like that, 500 links to my website that were gained through this whole thing. But it was constant posting and molesting my fans with this, and I really thought it would be worth more.
Yeah, that's surprising.
Okay. Yes.
I totally thought that would be worth more too, and so you're basically saying,
I think it's a much better idea to take $30 and just make an advertising banner on top webcomics if you want to reach those people.
Yeah.
But we don't want to get too deep into online marketing here, but I just had to share this little tidbit.
Yeah. Should we answer some of these questions that are?
We have a lot of interesting questions here, I guess. And how actually are we doing this? Are we starting at the top of the list?
I don't know. I think we can just pick whatever one you want to answer.
Okay, so let's do something like that. I see a lot of people were very quick-minded to put a prefix to their questions. So there are Wormworld questions and Thithra questions, and we just do one each. Shall we? So I answer a Wormworld question, you answer a Thithra question.
Sure.
And just for the fun of it, you can also answer some Wormworld questions if you want, and I will answer some Thithra questions. No, but I would say, well, go ahead, Jason. Pick a question. You start.
Well, let's start with this one that looks like 8 people want to hear, and it's for both of us. I've noticed you both have this long scrolling type comic. Is there a reason you choose this as your way of getting your comic out visually? And for me, I just imitated Daniel because it was such a brilliant way to present it online. It was really really nice for reading, and so I in doing Cithra, I was just like, I'm going to imitate that, but I'm also just trying to make it for the web, specifically for the web. What's best for the web? And then when I go to book, it'll be what's best for book. So that was me.
Mm. Okay, and I imitated Scott McCloud, actually. Now I saw Scott McCloud has on his website his Zod webcomic, which is also done in this scrolling fashion, and I was completely blown away by this, especially because he also experimented with it a little bit. There is one specific episode I remember where a spaceship is hit, and the crew falls out of the spaceship and falls down through the sky, and you follow this fall by scrolling down. And this is something that, for example, inspired the action scene in Chapter 3, the chase where Jonas is chased by the Draconia, with this very vertical progression of the action. And there's another thing that brought me to this specific layout. When I researched webcomics before I started my project, one thing that I just didn't like in any webcomic that I found was the clicking the next page button thing, and then the waiting 3 seconds for the next page to load, depending on the server the artist had set up, and I just hated it. And I wanted to just read the story in one go, and of course you have to do a separation at some point, although I guess some years in the future I might even have a story where all chapters are just put on one huge page. But I really wanted to have this single page where you would start to read and there would be no reason for you to stop. At least if the story is entertaining enough for you, for the audience. But it is really, really helpful to have a whole chapter on one HTML page, because this is only one link the people have to share, and all people that click on this link will land in a complete chapter, in a complete narration. They are not forced to click. They are not even forced to ask themselves the question, do I want to read the next page? It just comes naturally to them. And this is, I think, very important to keep the interest of the audience. So this is my reasoning behind the scrolling format.
Hey Daniel, someone just says, have you noticed that the final stretch goal has been reached on your camera?
Of course, yes, I have. Shall I run through my studio screaming and dancing? No, it's really great. I actually noticed we were out today with the family. My wife's father had birthday today, and we had a nice Spanish lunch because he's a Spaniard, as is my wife. And so we were out, but I always had this smartphone in my pocket, which makes a little noise when there's a new backer, and every time it made this little noise. I had to sneak peek under the table, and yes, I noticed that we reached the point, and I'm so happy because I actually started to illustrate this map, and it's so much fun. It's going to be such a great freebie for everyone, this map. And well, of course, I will react to this in the next update that I will do, I guess, directly after this recording, because I normally do my updates at 10 p.m. every day. This is the time when the campaign started, and by the way, it will be the time when the campaign ends. So on Tuesday at this time, if you haven't yet pledged for the book, you really should get your stuff together and just do it. No, of course I will address it in my new update, and well, I guess we're now officially in the final phase of the campaign.
Yeah.
Which for Jason it's still what? How much time is it for you, Jason? A week?
I got 8 days. A little over a week.
Days. So you have a full week before you get to this point. Soon I will have done it. Soon it will be over. I will have peace of mind again. No, it's awesome. It's really awesome, and actually, I'm totally excited to see where this will land in the end. Of course, I realize that the 300% thing is looming there, 36,000. But I don't actually. There were questions if there would be a new stretch goal, but I don't dare to do it because it would be such a bummer if we just closely miss it, or if we don't even come close to it. I just don't want to put the pressure on everyone. We reached so many stretch goals, and this is such a great campaign. I don't want to spoil it by going over the top. But that I want to say, should we reach the 300%, you can be assured that I will think something up after the fact that makes it worth for everyone.
There we go. An official stretch goal.
An unofficial stretch goal. I couldn't dare to just slip it under the table or under the carpet if we reach the 300% goal. That would be very special. But let's see. It's far away, and we only have 2 days left. So don't hold your breath.
I bet it'll happen. Yours has been a nice stair step just the whole way. So if it doesn't, I'll be surprised. Well,
I don't want to jinx it, Jason.
So we're at 10:30, and now I think we're going to open it up so that people can join the video call. So what Adam is going to do, our moderator, he's going to tweet out, or I don't know what he's going to do, put the link probably somewhere so that you guys can all come in. And I know there's only 8 spots at a time that we can have people join in on the video. Try to make sure you have earphones and a microphone so that we don't pick up a lot of audio bounce back all over the place. And yeah, we'll just open it up and see what happens, because it'll probably be confusing. But
I see I see that some of our all-time regulars are on the list. I've already said hi to Deirdre, but Eric is also there. Eric is.
I went ahead and posted that link on the main page so people can click it.
All right. Adam, do you want to tell people where that main page is in case they're on YouTube or something?
Sure. Yeah. If you just go to the link that you sent out earlier, basically that first page that you go to, directly under the video window, you'll see that I posted a Google link that you can click, and it should take you directly into the Hangout.
All right.
If you'd like, I can also tweet it out, but you'd have to go to my tweet, which is @SDGreeny, and I'll go ahead and tweet that out.
All right. Cool. Hey, Daniel, you might want to put on earphones too. I'm hearing a little bit of audio back in yours. You're gonna have to look professional now.
No problem. I will put on my very sublime earphones.
I could do the same thing. I could join you with big earphones if you want. See, I got some big ones too.
So that I'm not the only one who looks completely goofy, yes?
No, you just look more professional than everyone. That's all.
Of course, I'm a professional audio person thing. I don't even know the proper name. Very professional.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody has troubles getting in, just notify us through the questions or something.
I'm just seeing a question right on the top of the list. I want to go very quickly through it because it's kind of weird. Daniel, was your 8-chapter story finished with all details in your head before publishing the first chapter, given the fact that the poster of the 8 parts of the story existed in the very beginning? What are you talking about? 8 chapters? This story is a trilogy, and each part of the trilogy will consist of at least 20 chapters. So, no, in fact, so 8 chapters is not the end of the story. And I don't actually know what the 8 parts... you probably know mean the 8 sections of the Course of Things poster. but this is the history of the Wormworld. This is all before the first part starts. So now the Wormworld saga is much larger than eight chapters. I just wanted to get this question out of the way, because some people seem to be interested in that, and it's just misunderstanding.
Very good. Welcome, Patrick and Eric. Look at that.
Oh, right. This is Eric.
This is the Eric, huh?
This is the Eric. Hi, Eric.
I want to personally thank you, Eric.
Hello.
Yes.
Thank you.
Me too. Me too.
You've been a great help for my last 2 campaigns.
Yeah,
You're great creators. I appreciate it.
Actually, when I saw Jason, when I saw what happened in your Remind Volume 2 campaign, what happened in the comments and what kind of party was going on there,
Yeah.
I was really envious.
Yeah.
I just thought Jason has the greatest backers in the world. And
Yeah, it comes down to like a core group of like 5.
Yeah,
that were just like, everybody was just, it was a continual communication. It was so fun, especially towards the end. It was just like bling 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 bling. It was so fun. Yes. I love it.
And because someone also asked what was the greatest moments in our campaigns, I would say maybe not the greatest, because I think my greatest moment of all of the campaign was the deluxe upgrade day. But but the day when I realized, oh boy, that Jason's backers come over to me to have a party at my campaign too. This was definitely a great day, because now it was a great party in 2 houses. I just pictured a Los Angeles suburb where there's a party in one house and people just come over to the other house and just make party in the front in the street, and it's just so cool. And I love this cross campaign dynamic that just happened organically, because I don't remember to have lured people over from your comments to my campaign. So I don't feel guilty. I think it came on pretty organically.
Yeah.
I hope.
What I think was really cool is we both launched the campaign around the same time, and actually I was probably going to launch almost the same day as you if I would have just had my stuff together in time, but I didn't. And so it's kind of surprising that we both did it, because I looked at Kickstarter about a couple weeks before I launched, and I was like, hopefully there's some big campaigns going on so I can ride this wave, because I really think the reason some campaigns do good is because there's big ones happening that are similar, and so if there was another Order of the Stick going on right now making $1 million, then we'd be getting some of that traffic too,
Yeah, I think it's a two-sided thing, isn't it? Because on the other hand, if you have a lot of great campaigns going, people kind of have to decide where to put their money. So it's not only, but I guess the positive effect is larger, I would guess.
Yeah, I think what it is the hype. The hype of getting people to Kickstarter to just see what's there. Because when I'm not doing stuff on Kickstarter, I just don't frequent the site, unless I'm scoping out what I'm going to do or backing a campaign already. So I'm not constantly on it, trying to figure out what to buy. All right, guys. So you guys want to ask any questions? Do you have anything you want to say?
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
I don't know if my audio's working. Ever met in person?
Nope.
No.
We have big plans for it. Our plans are to. What's the big convention over there in Germany, Daniel?
Well, there actually aren't so many comic convention in Germany. There's one in Munich, and there's one in a small town called Erlangen, and they are I don't know, they switch years. each of these conventions is every 2 years. So if the one convention isn't on in a year, the other one is.
Oh, really? Is that limited? That's interesting. Here it's just
Yeah,
like
because,
every weekend there's 5 conventions, and you just get tired of them here.
And this is something that I would really like to point out. There's two things. One very bad thing for comic creators from Germany is there's actually no convention culture where you could sell your stuff. So the positive thing is that sending out stuff from Germany is just cool, because I can send the packages out into the world, because the German Post just offers wonderful rates for packages that are less than 1 kilogram, and this is my convention space. Kickstarter and the world. I can't go to conventions. We don't have those in Germany. Well, a few, but not the volume that you have in the United States. And this is my substitute for it, a Kickstarter campaign, and sending out stuff into the world.
Yeah. So to tag on to that, to answer your question, I think a couple weeks back we planned, like, at this convention we're going to be sitting next to Jeff Smith. It'll be you, me, Jeff Smith, and we're going to be signing books. So we haven't met yet in person, but I can't wait to actually do some traveling and try to hang out sometime.
Yeah, actually, I've never been out of Europe in my whole life. No, I haven't. So one of my big dreams is to once visit the United States, and this is this is the reason why we have this reward. This is the convention gig reward that I just put there, because I thought maybe one convention is taking the bait and invites me over to a convention, but it didn't happen yet. Maybe we have 2 days left. So if you're running a convention in the United States, there's a reward where I can,
Yeah, hint, hint. Come on, guys.
Hint, hint. Yeah.
I know there's some conventions that can afford it.
Now this is really a weird aspect of the whole thing. For example, I mentioned my literary agent. He's from Los Angeles. I've never met him in my life, but he's done a lot of wonderful stuff for me. For one, he made it possible for me to use Kickstarter in the first place, and he also did a lot of running work for me at the publishers, and he's doing editing for me actually on the English chapters, and we've never met. I had one video call with him. I wouldn't even know his face. If he would cross me on the street, I wouldn't recognize him, I guess. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's how a lot of this stuff is. I mean, even my stuff. I've never met my designer. He was just a fan of my books, and he's just an excellent designer. And I said, "Hey, would you want to design Remind?" And he's like, "Yes." So, and a lot of aspects of it have been the same. It's really cool. Well, hello.
I see Deirdre is there on video. Hi, Deirdre. Oh, it's so cool. Well, you know what? I have to mention that. On the first day of this the recent campaign, and when I saw that Deirdre had joined the campaign again, I just said to my wife, "Honey, we've got Deirdre again." She knew exactly what it meant, because Deirdre just rocked our last campaign. So, and she's doing it again, and it's just so much fun. So much fun to open the comments and the dynamic. Yeah. Yes. Really, and it's I actually it's a very surreal moment right at the moment to see you there in the video, to have this event. Yeah. It's just, if I phase out for a few minutes just in glee, know that it's just the pure enjoyment of this event.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's pretty unique to see all the faces now, after all the communication and partying on Kickstarter comments.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's definitely surreal. Hey, I wanted to announce something real quick. I should have announced this before, but Daniel kind of gave me this idea. But Daniel was kind of rubbing elbows with his publisher, Tokyo Pop, and talking about Remind and my campaigns, and we just actually made a kind of are working on a deal now so that Tokyo Pop will be publishing the German version of Remind, and quite possibly the German version of Cithra as well. So that's kind of a big deal for me because I've been waiting for something like that to happen for a long time. So,
and this would actually be a great moment because I noticed that Joachim Kaps is also in the stream. He's watching. Maybe Adam can somehow contact him and bring him on because this would be a wonderful moment to hear the voice of Tokyo Pop Germany, because you just announced that there's a really cool triangle connection now happening, and this is really cool.
I also want to thank you, Daniel, because I think you're kind of a huge factor in this working out and this happening. So I guess behind the scenes.
I guess that I just mentioned your project so many times that at some point he had to wonder, who is this guy anyway, Jason Brubaker? And when we now joined forces, and he just I guess he just saw that there was a chemistry between us, and the cool way you reacted to this cross-campaign dynamic, and I'm so happy that this is happening, because I was on the edge of my seat with your German version of Remind Kickstarter project.
Yeah,
I was a backer, and I was so bummed out that it didn't make the goal.
Yeah.
And now I guess we will actually see Remind and even Thithrar. That would be awesome. In a German edition, published by one of Germany's biggest publishers. That's so great.
Yeah, and this German edition is actually the same translation that the Kickstarter was for, which is kind of neat. You know, like it's not retranslated again. So it's pretty exciting.
So the work that Katharina put into this is actually book up. That's cool.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know, she was just a fan of Remind way back in the day, and she just started translating it on her own, and just emailed me and said, "Can I translate this? It'd be really fun." And I was like, "Sure." And so she just started working on it, and 2 years later she had it completely done. And then I was like, and then she even shopped it around a little bit to try to find a publisher, and it didn't work out. And so I was like, well, if you want to do a Kickstarter, it's all you, go for it. And so it's kind of a long history, and it's really fun to see it completely come full circle now. Anyway, enough of Remind. Moving on.
Well, that's true. I really wish we could, if Adam somehow manages it to get Joachim on the. I don't actually know how it works technically. If he just needs a link or something like that, you find him in the commenters. He's the black and white avatar Joachim Kaps.
Okay, I can get that done.
This would really be great to have him here on the show, especially as it is Sunday night and he takes up his free time to join us here. That's so cool. But okay, maybe we shouldn't get behind all the questions that we have here. Should we answer some of the Q&A questions?
Yeah. And if you guys have any questions that are live with us, chime in. You can. You might have to mute yourself.
So
go ahead, Daniel.
So I noticed we can clear up the question. We can delete the question on the very top. Oh, okay, I see. We have Joachim. We have Joachim on the broadcast now. At least with And with video, with
Well,
audio and
hello.
video.
Well, welcome. I know I sent you an email and you're like, I don't want to be a part of it. No. I'm glad you joined us.
Hello.
Welcome. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I was watching your party already and really enjoyed it.
Very good. Well, thanks for joining us for a little bit. I'm really excited about the translations going forward.
Yeah, me too. So I'm the lucky guy here. I have 2 wonderful artists in my catalog now, so what else can I ask more for?
Oh, that's exciting.
This is so awesome to have all you guys here in the video stream. This is so awesome. Great.
Yeah, it's totally.
Well,
all right.
And Joachim, since you're here now, you know that we also have an announcement left to do. You know what I'm talking about.
I guess so, yes.
How do you feel like revealing it right now? Because we are in revealing mood now somehow.
I think it's better if you reveal it because I don't have a fancy headphone as yours, and I'm mixing the whole thing up with that.
All right, so I just talked about it a few minutes ago. That it's kind of a dream for me to to come over to the United States to a comic convention and to be able to meet people in person. People like Jason, but also people that might be able to come to that convention, backers from this campaign. And when Joachim saw that how much support we got for this campaign and how many people are so into this English book edition of the Wormworld Saga, he suggested that he would send me over to the United States to a comic convention, most probably the San Diego Comic Con, I guess next year, because this year's Comic Con is already over. I don't even know, actually. But this will be it. I will come over to the United States, and everyone who has the ability to come to San Diego Comic Con I will be able to shake your hand, to draw even more stuff into your books, and to say hello, and to chat, and to talk, and it will be so exciting.
Yeah. I'm excited.
And Jason, we will meet in person, I swear.
Yeah.
And if I have to come out to Los Angeles, we will do it.
Sounds good.
I might even meet my agent. Okay.
That's great. All right. So, should we keep going through questions, or do you want to just keep talking amongst us? I don't want to steer the conversation too much.
Oh no! Deirdre, you want to? Deirdre wants to come to Brazil. Yeah, you have to talk to Joachim. You know, have him here on the podcast.
That's the next step, I guess.
Yes. Okay, let's do some questions. Jason, that's a wonderful question for you. Okay. Jason, do you have Silthra's story already plotted out, or are you still developing the story? That's a good question.
So it's pretty much all plotted out. Anyone who knows me knows that I kind of write my scripts in like thumbnail format or bullet point format, and it's all figured out to like the big key moments, but I like to kind of figure out the little moments as I'm working on the story, and it keeps it really exciting for me that way. So so for the most part, it's all there. I don't know how long and drawn out it will be, or how condensed it will be, and it just kind of, we'll see what happens as it goes, basically.
Very cool. Oh. Okay, I just have to stop grinning.
Here, Daniel, I'll ask you one of the questions. You could ask your backers in a survey once your campaign is done if you really want some statistics. So I guess people want statistics.
Yeah, but actually I think this is not true, because I think Kickstarter prohibits to put survey questions of this
Oh, that's right. They do.
of this type into their survey. So I can't do this. It
Well,
would violate Kickstarter regulations.
You could have them all join your mailing list and offer that information on your mailing list. Hmm?
Yes, that would be possible. You know,
Yeah.
every backer of the campaign gets a free 1-year membership in the Attic, and there you register with a email address and you join a newsletter. So we will figure something out.
There you go.
Yes. Oh, this is a question for us too. Who are your personal inspirations when it comes to making comics? Jason, go ahead.
Well, I was really inspired by a lot of the old '90s guys, like a lot of the Image people. You know, Todd McFarlane was the first guy that I really collected a comic from, and then like I like Mobius and Eric Larson and these guys. But then I kind of fell away from comics for a while. But it seems like a lot of those people, Frank Miller, you know, kind of stuck with me in my style, and but now it's like I'm more inspired by what is it? You know, the guy who does like Spirited Away. Miyazaki, yeah. I just love the feel of his movies and his books and looking at his storyboard books, and to me that is just the epitome of entertainment in book form. So if I can get close to that feel, then I feel like I've done a big thing. So that's me.
Mm. Yeah, Miyazaki is a huge inspiration for myself too, and I guess you can see it in the Wormwood Saga that the anime aesthetic is something that I'm very inspired by. So the painted backgrounds and stuff like that. So, but also the style of storytelling, the way you never really have a clear villain in a story. I'm one of my favorite stories of Miyazaki is Princess Mononoke, because every character in this story somehow has a very clear motivation that is not exactly evil, but it leads to evil actions, and even the protagonist is cursed by bears a curse that makes him do evil things, and this is very interesting for me. And I guess that only recently in chapter 6 you start to see that I try to give my characters more than one aspect. It just started now in chapter 6 when we learn that Raya has some kind of obscure backstory that we don't know anything about, but she seems to be somehow connected. I don't want to spoil anything, but she seems to have a lot of secrets that have to be revealed in the ongoing story, and I really love this because when I saw all these Miyazaki films, I only noticed that I grew a little bit tired of the standard fantasy formula where everything is cookie cutter type of characters, where we have the pure evil character, where you have the evil orcs, and this is, by the way, something you will also notice in later chapters. In my story, we have the Scrats, which are some kind of orc creature, but the important distinction is that Scrats are a little bit like orcs, but they have family actually. So and I always think that a creature that has a family can't be purely evil, because they normally they are motivated to save their family or to do things, and this is motivation that comes from love, and a creature that can love can't be purely evil. But I don't want to get into this rat hole. I mentioned Miyazaki. My biggest influence in comics is Katsuhiro Otomo and his Akira epic. This is the comic that showed me that a comic can feel like a movie. I was only accustomed to comics like Asterix that didn't feel like a movie. They were entertaining as hell, but they didn't feel like a movie. And Akira, for me, was the first comic I read, the first manga that felt like watching a movie. And this is what, since that day, this is what I want to reach. The feeling that you that you're watching a movie actually when you're reading a comic.
Yeah.
Well, and then there's Mike Mignola, just to put it there
Yeah.
too. Mike Mignola, the best drawing draftsman that I can imagine.
Yeah.
He's
I can't believe I forgot those guys. Those guys were huge influence on me too. Yeah. Very good. Let's see. Some other questions.
German version, very cool. I guess then you need to join the next comic salon in Erlangen, Jason. Well, I hope so. I hope so that Joachim will at some bright day bring you over to Germany.
That would be amazing. I love it.
So we had Comics Along Erlangen this year. It's only a few months ago, and it was such a great time. And the thought that we too might go through the tiny streets of Erlangen, go to these restaurants there, to the beer gardens, and just share this fun, it would be surreal. It would be a dream come true. So I hold my thumbs. I hold my thumbs that someday we will be sitting there.
Yes. Oh man. Oh, it's so exciting. Sorry guys. I got shivers up and down my spine. Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Okay. Next question. Yeah.
Here, I'll ask you this one, Daniel. Did you imagine the worldwide success? Do you imagine this worldwide success, or is it complete surprise? Were you planning for this success, Daniel, when you started your book?
The thing is that I just recently read my production diaries. I'm keeping a production diary since 2003, I guess, and around 2010, when the first chapter was produced, besides my day job, I put a lot of notes down, and what I did in this year was I researched other webcomics. I tried to figure out what are my chances, what could you expect if you publish something on the internet, and I realized there's so much stuff, so much great stuff. It's so much hard work. I guess I even came to the point, sometimes I came to the point where I said, well, does it even matter what I'm brewing up here? But I always had this hope. I always had the hope that my story and the way I would be presenting it would somehow be noticed. And this was my hope, but I would have never dared to think that it would actually happen. And when the first chapter was hyped so much on the internet, here in Germany, I even was in several TV shows, you have to know. Was absolutely crazy. I never expected that, and I was overwhelmed by it. And you have to imagine, it was at the beginning of 2011. I was sitting at my day job. This was happening. The hype around the first chapter was happening. I started in March. I started my first Kickstarter campaign. I was sitting at my employer at my desk and had the Kickstarter page open, and thousands of dollars were coming in. All my colleagues were seeing that, and it was a completely weird feeling. And only 2 months before that, our first son was born. So my life was completely out of control at this time. It was an absolute crazy time, and I'm very happy that it kind of stabilized now over the years, and that I also have to say, the way this Kickstarter campaign for the first English book now turns out shows a very bright future for the project. With the campaign, I will be able to finish chapter 7 without any problems, without any hiccups, which is great. And since everyone seems to be so interested in the first English book, of course we will do more books. We already have a second book waiting in line. The third book will be completed by chapter 7, and it just looks like that we are able to carry this project further and further, and this is the greatest thing that I could ever. I could never have expected that to be at this point in such a short time, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think for me, I have when you start, you have these giant plans, and you're thinking like, oh, it's going to be huge, but then immediately the reality sets in, and those giant plans kind of get smashed down, and you start trying to construct a reality, a roadmap that can actually be attainable. And so when you start taking those steps on that really subtle version of your grand plan, and then it starts working, like the first Kickstarter, when I launched that and it worked. It was huge. It was such a big deal, and then I applied for a grant, and I got the grant, and it was an extremely difficult grant to get, apparently. And so all these like little steps just keep adding up, and I never expected the direction to be this direction, though. I didn't expect to start out being a hard-headed self-publisher, going online and raising funds on my own. That was never the grand plan, But it's really been a fun road now that it's started. Excuse me. Okay. Any other questions? You got anybody want to chime in on audio? So it's not just me and Daniel talking. Daniel and I. You're all on mute, so just so you know.
Hello.
Hey. All right, Eric. What do you got?
I wanted to know if you want to add something about the Kickstarter campaign that we don't know about as we're creating it.
Is there something we did with the Kickstarter that you don't know about as we were creating it?
Yes.
Well, there's probably a lot of random things that, were kind of on the back burner, and like ideas, and I can't think of anything specific. I mean, it's a lot of like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night. I'm going to do this idea, and then you kind of wake up and you're like, no, that would take me 4 years to make a sculpture for people. A personalized sculpture. No, that's not going to work. So yeah, I don't know. What you got? Anything for that, Daniel? Was there something specific with your Kickstarter that you planned that we don't know about?
No, I'm wondering if this goes a little bit into the direction of what we talked about before we started the live stream, where I said that I only in hindsight, so only after the fact, I realized what a perfect idea this deluxe upgrade option was from a campaign standpoint, because as I already mentioned, that day when the deluxe upgrades happened, it was for me, it was the greatest day of the campaign so far. So it was really, and it was at a time where normally you stumble through the middle phase of a campaign and you always hope for engagement, or that some big blogs about you so that more people start to notice your thing, and this boost we got at this point, it was such a great thing for the campaign because it made everyone excited, and it was from the backers themselves. It was not a huge influx of new backers, it was from the backers themselves. They could, by their own hands, just boost this campaign to new heights, and I'm so happy that we just today reached the last stretch goal, and of course, and this is something I also said to Jason, is that what we both did actually is we started a whole series of campaigns, because for me it was clear that if the first campaign for the first book would be a success, of course it would mean to have more campaigns. And there are stuff that was mentioned. I also, for example, I had a very good idea that Joachim supposed to me for new stretch goals that I won't spoil for you just now, because I thought that that this would be a very good idea for the next campaign, actually. So what I would love to achieve is that the campaigns for the book series becomes a coherent narration where every campaign has something new to offer for the backers, so that it keeps being exciting for them. And so, yeah, there is stuff that I thought about, and there was stuff mentioned to me and supposed to me from several backers where I said to myself, this is a wonderful idea, let's just keep it a little bit longer. Don't let us just put everything in the first campaign, because that would just overwhelm everyone. And one thing also is very true. It would be very hard for me to add more freebies to the packages now, because we can only have 1 kilogram in each package, and the book itself is over half a kilogram, and all the freebie stuff that now is in our packages really adds up. So no, there's no action figure that lands into the package, because it's just not shippable that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the idea of this being the first of multiple campaigns, you know, and I'm thinking like that last campaign, like I'm gonna be holding. I was talking to Daniel about this, but I'm gonna be probably reserving like 100 copies of each book that I make in a box somewhere, so that last campaign I can provide the whole collection. They're all the same number. They're all the same, you know, special edition. And they're all in a box set, but that's going to be years down the road. But that's definitely something I'm thinking about and preparing for the long road with this, because I don't know, it's a long series, you know, it's going to be a multiple campaign project. So.
There's another Thithra question for you, Jason.
Right.
Can you tell us about one of your favorite moments as you were creating the first volume of Thithra?
There's one that happened recently, which was really a pleasant surprise, and I think people who read see my books see that I like to waste a lot of space on my pages. Because there's just something about it. When I pick up like one of Frank Miller's book and it's all spreads or something, it's just, there's something really fun about being able to see that. And so I like playing, or also when like I'm reading children's books to my sons, and they can have like, you turn the page and there's just like something simple on one page, and then you turn the page again, and it really services the story well, which I don't think graphic novels do. And I understand there's reasons for it, you know, like because it costs money to print an empty page still. But as I was working through the conversion from the website to the book, there was this moment where I'm trying to figure out how to organize these panels to kind of shock the audience, and I have all this detail going on, and then this one panel on the right-hand side, and then I have it so you flip the page, and it's the exact same panel, but with the change and the reaction in that panel, and then everything else is white. And it's so pleasing to me when I see it, and I don't know how people are going to react to it, and I think people are going to be like, "You're cheating. That's such a cheap way of making a lot of pages." but to me, it's the thing that will make me excited if I pick up a book and I see that kind of stuff in it. Like the author is really like kind of experimenting, and so anyway, I would have to actually show it to you guys for it to make much sense, but it's, I don't know if so it probably doesn't make any sense what I just said. But that was a pleasant surprise.
But you know, I guess it's exactly these moments where you get the feeling as a creator that you can do something because you earned it for you, because as a self-publishing artist, you just have the control over these things. You have no editor that says, well, you can't waste that much space, we only have that much pages.
We're paying
And this
you $200 a page. You can't put nothing on.
yeah, right. So, but this is for me a moment like this is when I'm on this scrolling format and I just can have a character falling down, falling through the panels, falling out of the panels. When you think this is not so easy to do if you haven't made the choices beforehand for the design and stuff like that. These are great moments for the creator because you really feel like you are in control of this thing, and this is, I think, what creators love, to be in control. I mean, because look at Jason, look at me. We were both working, or we are both working in creative fields, and for me, I can say I was working as an employed artist in a creative environment. But what we really strive for, what we really want, is to do our own stuff. We want to do it our own way, in our special kind of seeing stuff, and this is the greatest achievement you can have with this self-publishing thing.
Yeah. For me, I always tell people it's, when I was a little kid drawing, the reason I wasn't attracted to drawing was because my mom would tell me what to draw, or I would go to school and they would tell me what to draw, and then I would draw it. That wasn't what fulfilled me. It was me just making up something and people responding to it. And so to me, it's like to try to keep that however I can with my projects is really important, because that's what made, that's why I'm a creator. That's why I'm an artist in the first place. So let's see. We'll move on to another question.
Well, there's one interesting question concerning the publishing. It's a question for me. Why do you think it has been so difficult getting published in English? This is a very interesting question, and this actually completely led to this whole Kickstarter idea, because I consider my books to be published by Tokyopop. It all started actually in a way where I had where my idea of the whole thing was that I am maintaining my digital version on the website and in the app, and the books are a branch that is completely taken care of by Tokyopop, and they would do the German edition. They were successful in licensing the story to France, and my expectation or my hope was, the way I imagined it, was that someday we would just find the right publisher in North America, be it the United States or Canada or whatever, and just do an English version that way. And it turned out that this really wasn't easy to do, because, or to say it more plainly, we weren't able to find a proper publisher to do this. We had talks with several companies that weren't actually publishers. They were more like transmedia companies that were on the lookout for interesting licenses, but you could see that they weren't really interested to publish the graphic novel. They were interested in the ancillary rights. They wanted, I think the first thing they wanted to do was a novel adaptation for kids and stuff like that. So we weren't able to find a traditional graphic novel publishing deal that would also grant us a lot of the ancillary rights. And I think after 3.5 years now, we just came to the conclusion, okay, if that's not working, we just have to do it ourselves. And the question why it was so hard, this is really complex. I talked with my agent about it, and he talked to a lot of publishers, and also to publishers where our book would have been, which is my feeling, a wonderful addition to books they already have, and it just didn't work out. And I don't know if the book market in America is part of the problem, or if just being a foreign artist is not what they like to do. I don't actually know how many European artists are there in America, published in America. So I don't really know, but I have to say now, in hindsight, I guess that doing this way with the Kickstarter and the direct connection to the fans and seeing the success of this, I think that at least at this time it is a better option for us to do it this way than to have everything given away to a publisher, which might be a possibility for a later part. Maybe the success of this self-publishing effort will at some point attract the right partner, because it would be cool to have a publishing partner in the United States, because they do all sort of marketing and stuff that you can't really do here from Germany. It's so remote, but right at the moment I'm very happy with the route that we have taken, and I expect to publish at least a handful more books just the way we did it, and maybe just all books, because doing these special editions via Kickstarter, they are actually limited editions, does not really harm the possibility to have a standard regular direct market edition at a later point. They don't compete against each other, because the Kickstarter editions are special. They are sold out very quickly, so the market then is free for other editions. But I don't know. I tend to just say we will see how it develops. Currently it works wonderfully the way it works, and we will just see what happens.
Yeah, you can kind of just expect it to just keep building on itself. That's what it seems like with me, and my stuff. Like, as long as I'm moving forward and continuing to grow what I'm doing, it seems like opportunities keep opening up, it just seems like as long as you're continuing to do it, Let's see. What questions now? No spoilers, guys. That was a question.
Yes, no spoilers. All right, Yedra, no problem. We won't spoil anything. Oh, Jason, can you compare Sithra with Remind? That is actually a question that interests myself very much, because I don't know what's currently online. I've read what's currently online of Sithra, and I was actually very surprised to hear that your first volume is that you are so advanced, that you have so much material already, because with Remind you put a lot of material online directly when you had it ready, and with Sithra it seems your strategy has changed a little bit, so there's more actually than we as readers know. And
there's a little bit more. Twice as much probably as what's online, but I'm also trying to publish a book a year instead of waiting until I have like 170 pages like I did with Volume 2 of Remind. And because I notice when I go, like here, I go to conventions, quite a bit. Not a whole lot in the last few years, but at the conventions you get repeat fans that come up and they're like, what do you have new this year? What do you have new this year? And I'm just really bummed out when I have to turn everybody down who comes to see me again the next year. And so I was like, okay, with Sithra, I'm going to just make sure I can publish a new book a year. If it's 50 pages, that's fine. If it's 200 pages, that's fine. So that's kind of been as far as the publishing process goes, that's how that's been. And you probably will notice too that the cat's in Sithra as well. His name isn't Biddles. His name is Simon in Sithra. And I'm just treating it like this is the logo of my publishing company, Coffee Table Comics, is the cat head. And so he's going to be like an actor who plays a role in every one of my books somehow. And so that's kind of where that is. And as far as the story goes, Remind was kind of a lot of it's a lot of bizarre things that happen, like conspiracies and weird stuff, brain transplantation, but everything was still kind of within the realm of what you could, if you can see it, you can prove it type thing. Whereas Sithra, I'm going more into, the story evolves more into the world of the unseen and like the weird invisible spirit world type thing. And so that's why I think the prose is going to be really fun, is because there's going to be a lot of things that you can't really visualize that I'll be able to just have a little sentence there to explain when I don't want to show anything, because there's nothing that can really explain it or something like that. These are kind of ideas bouncing around in my head. So those are some of the differences anyway. I think going forward, I'm probably going to focus on the spread, creating the spreads first, and then converting that to an online format versus starting with the online format and converting that to a book. Just because the book is kind of the primary object that I'm focused on. So anyway, those are some of the big differences.
I'd like to go quickly through the two next questions. I can join them to one question actually. Is the picture of the journey begins? In the picture of the journey begins, there are many accessories in the room on the floor. Is there a reference to Gandalf and Lord of the Rings? I would say it's not necessarily a reference to Lord of the Rings, but it's clearly a wizard action figure there, and it stands for the archetype of the wizard, be it Gandalf, be it Dumbledore, the wise man that is like a father figure for the protagonist. You find it in the Wormworld too. You have the character of Janaka Jiva. There will be a new character in Chapter 7 that also has some aspects of this role, but not purely this role. And it's just, it's just a reference, and you will actually find a lot of stuff that is in this picture that references these things, be it the drawings that are spread around the picture, or it's a lot of symbolism in this picture. You have the sailing ship, which is a symbol for a journey. You have the telescope, which is a symbol for the journey. You have the globe, which is a symbol for the journey, and you even have the skeleton, which is a symbol for the last journey, and stuff like that. So I put a lot of thought on what to put into this picture. And the second question, where did you get the ideas to create Wormworld? I would say it is a mix. It is a mix of stuff that I read, stories that inspired me, but also a huge portion of personal experience. I just recently realized that a lot of stuff, a lot of landscapes is based on stuff that I have experienced. There are some wonderfully magical places in northern Spain, where my wife comes from, which I visit at least once a year. There's a mountain there that I always visit, because there are very old, crooked trees, and there's often very much fog in the air, and the cities there with a lot of steep slopes, because they are directly on the coast and stuff like that. It's this all inspired the locations that I created for the Wormworld. And also I have a huge fascination for India and the Indian culture, which is heavily reflected in the Wormworld Saga 2. So I am watching a lot of documentary movies about India and this cultural landscape. Stuff like the idol in Chapter 5 is taken from that. The whole look of the clothing of the people, the fact that they are traveling on the roof of a transport ship is heavily inspired by people traveling on the roofs of trains in India, and you find those references everywhere. And one very fun little fact actually is that you will see that in Chapter 7 there are a lot of street signs, which are written in a language that you can't read. I didn't come up with my own fantasy scripture for this. What I did is I went to a website that features old scriptures, and I just took randomly one that looked cool to me. And I just recently found out that this scripture is actually used today in Bangladesh, in eastern, which formerly was India. They got divided and during the time when Gandhi was active, and there was actually a Bangladeshi fan who wrote back to me who just gave me the feedback that he totally sees all this influence from his mother country, and that he even saw this scripture. He couldn't read it because what I actually did is I wrote German words, but I exchanged all German letters with Bengali letters, and this was a hilarious coincidence. Yeah, but these are basically my influences. And that's cool. That's a cool new question for you, Jason. With your plan for one book a year, how does it fit in with your work schedule at DreamWorks? Oh, this is a toughie.
Yeah, it's really tight, is how it fits in. And the reason I decided to not try to the reason I tried to. Okay, let me start over. The reason I decided to just publish what I had finished that year was because of the work schedule at DreamWorks. Because, I didn't know if I would be able to get done with 40 pages or even 30. If I could only get done with 30 a year, I would add a bunch of, another 30 pages of sketches and making of content. And that's just the way I approached it, so that I could at least publish something. But it happened, I was surprised to have about 75 pages once I tallied up everything for this first one, once I converted it all to the pages. So it was a surprisingly bigger amount of pages than I expected. But when I go to work, I take breaks and always have my sketchbook. I'm always working on stuff in between things. If I finish a project early and I'm just sitting around for half the day, which is happens every now and then there, I'll be working on my stuff. And I always try to get up early. Especially since this campaign has started, I got back into the habit of getting up at 5 in the morning to try to work on stuff before I go to work. And that's always the most that works the best out of everything I do, is just do as much as I can for an hour or two before work, and it's amazing how much I can get done. So in addition, I have colorists who are helping me. I've been paying some colorists to do the first pass at everything, and then I still spend an hour or two kind of massaging it and going and changing it a little bit and adding my textures. But that has saved me a ton of work, and then moving forward, I mean, I can't go elaborate on it, but I am making plans to change my situation. So, but hopefully I can announce something in the near future. But for now, I'll just leave it at that, which might allow me to have more time to work on stuff.
Man, what could that be? I wonder.
No dates, no details just yet, because I don't know. There's a lot.
You never know who watches this live stream. Yeah. I guess everyone who has 10 fingers can do some math, and yeah. Yep. Let's leave it that way.
Let's leave it that way. You can guarantee I will make a big announcement when the time is right.
Yeah.
So, let's see. With so many Kickstarters that have failed to deliver their promises, do you deliver on your promises? I mean, you deliver on your promises and go above and beyond. Thanks for everything. Oh, thank you guys.
Technically, this is not a question, but thank you very much.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes a long time. I think it's been like, with each one of my campaigns, it's been about 2 years for me to get all of the things delivered. The first one was these 10 paintings I promised people, and that took me forever to get those done. And then obviously on Remind, the second Remind book was the special making of book that I promised everyone. That ended up taking 2 years about. So, but I'm so glad that's done. 'Cause I can move on now.
Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah, thinking about this stuff, the last campaigns, the last campaign, our shop campaign, was really hard because of all the different stuff, which was complicated to pack and to ship and to produce. This actually was a nightmare to have, what, about 10 or 13 different products in a campaign. And you know, when I now look at Kickstarter campaigns, one that's also running right at the moment, I guess, is for a plush toy for the Awkward Yeti, or for a plush toy for the Awkward Yeti comic or something like that, where I see, oh, he's doing a Kickstarter campaign just to do a plush toy. That's the way to go. Not a plush toy, 3 different T-shirts, 3 posters, different buttons, window stickers, paper toys, and swords and displays, and
Yeah.
you know. No, I'm really, I think, and this is something that I learned, I really want to find the sweet spot for Kickstarter campaigns. And by sweet spot, I mean a Kickstarter campaign that does not stress out me as a creator, but that brings enough stuff for the great people that are backing me.
Yeah.
Because this is, and I think that with our recent campaign, I guess we have a pretty nice balance, because we have a real big bunch of freebies that everyone is getting. I think you will really enjoy the packages when you open them. But on the other hand, I know I have to ship books, and I have to put this nice little stuff into the book packages, and that's it. And this is, I think, a nice balance, where everyone, where everyone involved benefits from the whole situation. And this is something that I'm really looking forward to evolve this model, and to think about new ways to even enhance a product like this, or a selection of products like this, and not going over the top, but always trying to make it a little bit better. And this is a really exciting process on its own, I think. And your input, by the way, is greatly appreciated. Leave us comments and stuff, what stuff you like, and you're already doing a great job of giving feedback, what you like and what not so much, and this helps us tremendously to design the best campaigns that everyone enjoys.
Yeah. I want to just add to that, Daniel, that the whole there's this allure of having, you know, a $200,000-$500,000 campaign or something ridiculous and breaking records, but you know, going forward after the second Remind campaign, I was like, my goal with Kickstarter now is to be able to print the amount of books I want, so that I can, you know, have like 5,000 books and be able to sell them for the next 3 years, and that's the primary goal. You know, like all the bells and whistles are great, and my goal with Cithra is to always have 1,000 book plate versions that are signed and numbered that you can only really get through the campaigns, and I'm hoping that as I go, like, those will sell out fast, and then everything else will just kind of be the standard things, you know. But the goal is not to go crazy wild and have, you know, 2 years worth of full-time fulfillment to do, because after the last Remind campaign, I kind of like I hit my wall and I hit my limit, and I realized it's better for me to do something that I can manage and control than to stop doing comics altogether. And I can really see how people get to that breaking point on their Kickstarters and then just screw it all up because they've bitten off way more than they can chew, because it's so tempting to do that. You know, like you're saying, it's like you have this greed once you start. You're like, let's keep it going. You know, let's keep. What can we add? What can we add? You know. But for me, like moving forward, I was just like, for me to make this work, it has to be the perfect balance, just like you were saying. So it's interesting to hear you say that. It's not quite as sexy, you know, but it works. It allows you to actually be a creator, is what it is, you know.
Well, you know, as I said in the pre-show, so to say, we all saw the Order of the Stick Kickstarter campaign with $1.2 million. This guy is still doing his fulfillment, and I'm reading the updates, and he has this chart with these 1,000 things on it, with extra stories, with mini comics, and all the stuff that people are demanding him. It's 2 years now since the campaign, or something like that. Nearly 2 years, I guess.
Isn't it more than that? I don't know.
Maybe, and he's still. And I think these 1.2 million came with some sour grapes for the creator, I would say. And I don't know if I'm leaning too far out of the window there. So I would totally second what you said, Jason. The balance here is not only a balance in stuff that you pump out, but also a balance of where to put your expectations, how to calculate all the stuff, how to manage to get a profit out of it too, because it's great if you pay for all the expenses of the campaign, but if all you end up with is a stock full of books, in your case, for example, this is a very good thing because you can run all the conventions with your printed books. Yeah. But in my case, for example, if I end up with a stock full of books, I have to find ways to sell them. And of course, I have a shop. I have an online shop, but well, I guess it's no secret if I say that my shop is not as popular as Amazon or what, and that we're just not able to sell the volume of books that you would need to sell to make a living from just selling your stock.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and I guess this is the Kickstarter model is maturing a little bit in this way, because creators begin to think about, all right, these are impressive numbers, but what I actually have to do to fulfill this if it comes to that point.
Yeah.
And I guess this balance is a really hot topic to talk about among creators, because what we want to do is we want to create our stories. And although I really enjoy doing Kickstarter campaigns, it's a weird kind of enjoyment, actually, because it's totally true that it is torture, but it's a weird type of torture. But in this whole month of the Kickstarter campaign, I haven't been able to paint a single panel of my story. It's just a Kickstarter campaign like this consumes you completely. And it forces you to put out the word every day, to make these little charts, to correspond with backers, to answer emails. I have a whole stack of fan art to go through tonight, and stuff like that. And I'm going to be very happy when this all is over, and when I can take up my pen again and make this art. You know, 2 days ago I started with a world map, and it kind of felt weird to draw something. You know, it's just a long time. It's just a long time since the last time that I painted something. So yeah, these I guess these Kickstarter campaigns are needed for our purpose. In order to continue our art, we have to do these. but we have to keep them to a level where they are not harming our original goal. So,
Yeah.
and
you could,
with this, yeah.
and you could argue, well, you should just get a fulfillment house to do all this stuff for you, and then you can make the campaigns big. But the problem is, it's not personal. It's not what people are attracted to. That connection with the audience. Like, I'm giving them a signed book. It doesn't. It's not that anymore. If your goal is to sell,
Yes.
20,000 orders on Kickstarter, it's impersonal at that point.
We're back. This is classic publishing, then, I would say.
Yeah.
It's very close to classic publishing, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. But I would also say that if you plan to do something just to let it be fulfilled by another party, it really gets away from the original spirit, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I find very interesting is I guess we all know this meme of the 1,000 true fans on the internet. And it's very interesting to see that campaigns that are able to attract about 1,000 backers are the campaigns that come close to the point where where the artist becomes self-sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of the 1,000 fans translate very nicely to the idea of the 1,000 backers. And I guess if you, as a creator, are able to have a Kickstarter campaign once a year with 1,000 backers, you have a wonderful groundwork for your creative journey. And this an interesting coincidence, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I haven't even thought about that article recently, but yeah, my goal is to have 1,000 collector book plates of each one of my books, and and I'm getting close to having those sold out, so it's pretty exciting. But see, I also have a distributor in place. With Remind 2, I had a distributor, and so they're sending them out to stores, and I'm continually selling Remind 1 and 2 every month. And so to me, it's like the Kickstarter is for the direct contact with the fans that actually want that direct contact, and everything else is through the distributors, because they do handle Amazon, and they handle bookstores and comic book stores and all that stuff, So, and that's a continual little paycheck too. So not to get into money, but I just the more books I can have that are continually bringing in a little tiny stream of income each, and then that partnered with the Kickstarter that's fulfilling all the publications and productions and stuff. It seems to me like it's very doable to work with that 1,000 true fans, like you were saying.
Here's an interesting question. Could even make it the question to both of us, Jason. It's Daniel. I'm curious how having a child has influenced your process and your perception of Wormworld. I ask because I'm watching this Hangout while chasing a 2-year-old around the house. He's a big fan of Jonas too. I'm very happy to read that. But this is an interesting coincidence between us two, Jason, that we have young children, and you are writing a story about a young girl that is taken away from his father. And what I can definitely say is that when I had read this first pages of Sithra a few years ago, it wouldn't have affected me a lot, I guess. But now that I'm a father of young children, a story where a child loses his parent, and I hope that it's only temporal loss, that it really makes me emotional, and it really has impact on me. And this is actually my answer to the question how my own perception of my own story has changed, because I can't really say it has changed, because when the first chapter was created, I haven't been a father yet. My first son was born when the first chapter was released. But what I know is that I'm looking at this young character with very different eyes now. That I know that he's a child that misses his mother, that has a difficult relationship to his father, and these things are very. I can get very emotional about these things, and I think that if you can put it that way, it is perfect timing for me, because would I have started this story 5 years ago or something like that, I think it wouldn't be so emotionally true to like the way what I want to say is that I guess now that I'm a father and that all these things have a stronger impact on me, I guess I'm able to write a better story about a child that's kind of lost in the world and that's having a difficult relationship to his father and has no mother and finds a new mother actually in a fantasy world, and I think it's very important that to have this based on real life experiences and to be emotionally involved in those characters.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think Jason, you will experience something like that too.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, I wrote the groundwork for Sithra. It was probably, I think it was 2003. So it was before I had kids. I had this idea, you know, and it was heavily inspired by Miyazaki stuff. But then now that I started working on it, it's I can easily just put myself into the mind of this little kid now because I have little kids, and it's reminding me every time I look at how my kids act. It reminds me of what I did when I was a little kid and why I did it, and how I would respond to things, and these connections start connecting like instantly, like in my mind, like, oh, you know, that's I should apply this and apply that, and so to me it's been kind of a re-energizer of this story to have kids, because I feel like I really can connect to what this character's might be thinking. You know, I mean, obviously I can't tell exactly what my kids are thinking, but I can guess. Yeah, it's been a big influence, and you know, even like sitting down and reading stories with my kids, there's the whole some of the ideas of putting prose into it and kind of mixing almost like a children's book type mentality with it, even though it's not necessarily geared towards children. It's come about because I see how my kids respond to sitting and reading a story with them, and so it's just kind of like jamming all that stuff together and trying to make it, yeah, just emotionally connect as much as you can with people, and yeah. But it's also hard, you know, because you have kids running around and you got to figure out how to get the work done.
You know, there's another interesting aspect concerning the kids. I had a very weird moment, I guess. It was even before we started the Kickstarter. It was a moment when I was lying in the garden on a bench, and my little son, now 3.5 years old, ran around the garden, and out of the blue, he suddenly said, "Kickstarter campaign." It was absolutely no topic at this moment, and no one said it, and he just stood there and said, "Kickstarter campaign." He must have heard this term so often in the weeks before that he just knew it was a thing, but he had no idea what it is. And since the campaign started, he always asked me, "Daddy, let's see where the dash is," because he knows that I always look where the line is going on the graph, you know, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm very aware of the fact that I've become some kind of role model now for my son, and he sees that Daddy is doing something on the computer, and people are somehow help Daddy to do his stuff, and and this is really weird. And you know, when you get kids, when you have your first child, everyone asks you, oh, now that you have your first child, I bet you feel a lot more responsible than you did before. So all this quitting the job and doing the leap of faith stuff and stuff like that seemed odd to a lot of people around me. But I came to the conclusion that now that I have these little humans that are watching what I'm doing, I want to do stuff that I feel is the right stuff.
Exactly.
And I have the complete opposite feeling that now that I know I'm a role model for a little human, I want to give my best, and if I want to tell him that adventures are great and that you should follow your dreams, I better do it myself.
Exactly,
so this, for me, it has never been a holdback to have kids. It's more like, it's more like a motivation to give your best and to show them if you believe in your stuff, you'll find a way to do it.
Yeah. That's so funny that you say that, because I feel the same way, you know. People look at like any sort of leap of faith with a personal project as like, man, that's a huge risk now that you have a family involved. And I to me it's like, man, I don't want to let my family down by just grinding away at the day job for the rest of my life and being frustrated. You know, come home from work after 10 hours and not be able to give any time to anybody and be frustrated. So to me, there's a different perspective on it. You know, like, and it's funny you mentioned Kickstarter and your kids. My 5-year-old started asking me about Kickstarter the other day. He's like something, I don't remember exactly how it got started, but he's like, what's Kickstarter? Because I guess my wife and I were talking about it. I was like, oh, it's where, you know, you sell your thing. He's like, so can I do a Kickstarter? And I was like, yeah, if you make something that you can sell online. He's like, okay, I want to make a car. And I'm like, can you make a bunch of cars? You know, you can. So it was just funny, and I was showing him the campaign, and see, these are people who are giving me money for what I created, you know, and so to me that's rewarding, because I'm training my kids to think outside the box. You know, no one is trained to think outside of the box, I don't think. Not in normal school anyway.
That's true.
And especially once you get into a work environment, it's how can we contain, you know, everybody inside the box, you know. And if everyone's thinking the same thing around you, it's hard to break out of that. So anyway.
So let me just answer here a couple of questions that I guess I can combine some questions here, because they are asking about the next steps. Here's a question from Ben Steed. When are you planning the next volume? Are you planning the next volume to include chapters 4 to 7? Secondly, thank you both for such engaging, exciting projects. Thank you very much. Thanks for your support. This is as important as our creation. The one wouldn't be there without the other. And to answer your question, what I'm planning is to basically to bring the German editions, the German books, to make them into English editions. So there already is a second German book. Book 2 contains chapters 4 and 5. And this is, by the way, the plan for all the other books in the future, that they contain 2 chapters. It was the original plan for the first volume too, but since the first chapter is pretty short, because I did it beside my day job, if the first book would only have contained 2 chapters, it would have been pretty short. And when we assembled the first book, we had the feeling that it would be good if we would actually enter the wormworld in the first book. So that was the point where we made the decision to have the third chapter also in the first book. Chapter 2 will tell the story in and around Ankal Asha. So chapter 4 and chapter 5, where they're setting out to the Worm Mountain, will be book 2, and book 3 will contain the chapters that are set up at King's Peak, which is chapter 6 and chapter 7. And from that point on, my plan is to have always have 2 chapters in one book. And you might have noticed that chapter 6 is pretty long, so I try to compensate the fact that we only have 2 chapters in future books by making the individual chapters a little bit longer. So book 2 will actually be a little bit of an outlier. It will have a bit less story pages than the first book, but from book 3 on, we will have more story pages, or as many story pages than as book 1, but divided to 2 chapters. And there was another question by Eric. Daniel, when do you think chapter 7 will be finished? Do you know when the campaign for the next volume will be? I also like the fact you're getting these items to us by Christmas. I like that too. That we, especially because in the last campaign we managed to be too late for Christmas. But to answer your question, chapter 7 will go into production right after this campaign. Well, not right after this campaign, because after the campaign I will have a vacation. I will visit the family in Spain. They want to see the new baby that was born in January, so we have to go. But right after this vacation, I will start on chapter 7, and I plan to have it finished at the beginning of next year. Hopefully in February, maybe in March. I don't know. It will be shorter than chapter 6, so I hope it will be ready in February. And when chapter 7 will be published, this would be a perfect time to have the next Kickstarter campaign. So that from that point on, we would have a Kickstarter campaign every year, I guess. But maybe the Kickstarter campaign for book 3 could also happen in 2015, in late 2015. So that would be 2 Kickstarter campaigns in 2015. But this basically is the plan. And one thing that I have plotted out by now is that this Kickstarter campaign now helps me to do chapter 7 and complete book 3. Book 2 will help me to complete chapter 8. Book 3 will help me to complete chapter 9, which is a 4th book that will help me to complete chapter 10. So this whole Kickstarter thing shapes up to be a support to carry the project up until chapter 10, which will be a big chunk of the whole story. As I said at a different point, we are having the Wormwood Saga is a trilogy, and each part of the trilogy is comprised of about 20 chapters. So with chapter 10 we would be half through the first part of the trilogy, which would be awesome, which would be more than I ever expected to do. And I really hope that this plan somehow works out. It sounds like it could work out. Of course I need the support of the people, but well, people showed more support that I ever could hope for, so I'm very optimistic about that part of the plan. Yeah. So okay, these were some rather technical questions about the timing. There was some cool Thisra question, Jason. Oh yeah, how has your audience changed since changing to a new story? Did you lose a lot of readers from the Remind to Sithra? Do you gain a lot of new readers? How do you see this? What's your impression?
I think I did lose a lot of readers, and I think it wasn't because of changing stories as much as that Kickstarter campaign just kind of wiped me out, and I kind of was on a hiatus, or I just kind of was off the map, so to speak, for about a year, fulfilling things and just trying to reassess like how I want to move forward with publishing. And so in that time, my audience that would come to my website just kind of dropped quite a bit because I just didn't have anything new to give them. And but if I would have what I wanted to do was announce Cithra, the launch of Cithra, right as the last page of Remind went online, and that would have been ideal, and then I could have just shuffled everybody over to the new site. But now it's kind of like I'm kind of going out to the same places I went to with Remind and saying, hey, I got a webcomic over here, come check it out. So it's a lot of it's kind of re-pulling in people, but there's been a core group that has definitely stayed with me, and really, obviously stayed with me and kept funding it, and I have like the Patreon campaign as well, which I have over 100 people that are continually supporting me through that, which I don't know if any of you guys know about the Patreon. It's a way you can continually fund creators who are continually posting stuff for free online. So like if Daniel started a Patreon campaign, which I'm sure he will. No.
Yeah. That is just, I have to.
Which I'm trying to convince him right now to do. No.
No, the thing is, meanwhile, I have listened to 3 podcasts in which Jack Conti of Patreon was a guest, and this guy is just so inspirational and such a cool person, and I really want to dive into this Patreon thing. The only thing is that I need some time to figure out how all this comes together with my own subscription area, the attic, because there would be 2 possible ways. The one would be that the Patreon supporters and the attic supporters are basically treated the same, so that they get the same content. But then they could start arguing about the pricing or stuff like that. And the other idea is to have something completely unique on Patreon.
Yeah.
But then actually I would have to think about what this could be, because I don't want to have too much extra work beside my actual work that distracts me from the comics. So I'm trying to figure that out, but I think that Patreon is a great thing and it can't be neglected, I think.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm glad you're thinking about it. That's cool. But yeah, that does pose another problem. So yeah, the fans have changed, and I don't do the how-to content on Cithra.com either. After I finished publishing Unnatural Talent, my how-to book, I really wanted that to be kind of the bookends of my how-to stuff, and because I just saw that it was taking up so much time, and I just didn't want that to be my primary role. And I think as time will go on, I'll probably add things to that book. So for instance, I need to add something about Patreon, and then I'll probably republish a new edition of it. But so a lot of those people that were just for the how-to advice, those people have moved on, I think. And so now I kind of have, like from the ground, hit the ground running with something new. There's a little collection, probably a quarter of my audience from Remind that are with me. But I do find that there's a lot of new people that are discovering it now that have never heard about me or Remind or anything. And so so it gives me an opportunity to, sell Remind to someone for the first time who first discovers Cithra, So, but it's been a challenge. And I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't time it at all right. By taking the hiatus, that really like throws some water on the fire. but it was kind of a mental hiatus. I just needed time away to just say, is this what I want to do? Because I don't want to be miserable doing this. If I do it the wrong way, I'll be miserable trying to fulfill all these things that weren't really what I wanted to do. Like continuing to be the how-to guy is an example of that,
Yeah. Now that you're saying it, basically this Cithra campaign for you is has been, we can say it in the past tense, because it already is plainly to see that it's a great success. But this has been your proof of concept if you are able to just make a graphic novel, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And without all the other stuff around it,
Yeah.
the how-to stuff and things like that.
And what's funny is when I had approached doing the website, I even went against all my advice in my how-to book on the best way to get the monetization and getting the most people by blogging and updating every other day and all this stuff. I went against that completely because I was like, you know what? If I can't do a comic and just do it in the form that I visualize it, that I want to do it, and if it doesn't just succeed on its own merits like that, without all these other gimmicks, all these other things, then am I really successful at making comics?
Well, as long as we have a T-shirt. You know what? A funny fact about our T-shirts. The T-shirts were the most were the item that were with the most backers in the Kickstarter campaign for the shop.
Really?
Since the shop had opened, we have not sold a single T-shirt, not a single one. And this was eye-opening to me because I realized all these people that were backing the shop Kickstarter campaign, they did not actually need the stuff that we offered them there. They just supported to help me.
Yeah.
And this was something that I was shocked about it when I realized that, and it was a month after the Kickstarter campaign when we actually saw what the people were buying in the shop.
Okay.
And it was such a revelation to see, man, these people, they don't need T-shirts at all, at least not from the Wormworld Saga. And if you think about it, it totally makes sense because the Wormworld Saga is not something that has those cool pop culture references in it, and where you can have a very cool thing on the shirt or a nice sentence or stuff like that or something like this. It's just not a product. It's just not a world or a concept where you really need a T-shirt to dive into it or something like that. And what the shop is selling is books and prints, and that's what I have always sold, even when I did it in the early days with the PayPal buttons on the website. And this was really interesting to see, and it comes, and I came to this train of thought because, as you said, you have to find out what exactly is the core of your creative vision and what is your core product and what do the people actually want to have from you.
Yeah.
And that it might be okay to step back and say, okay, I'm not doing whatever anymore, and maybe you won't even notice any backlash from leaving something out because maybe people didn't need it in the first place. Maybe people just want to read your books.
Yeah.
And that would be a very, very great thing if you would come to a point where it would actually be sufficient to create those books, and don't have to juggle all the other stuff, and that would be a very good outcome of all of this. But I can imagine that it must have been very exciting for you to start this new campaign because you must have been very aware of the fact that you're keeping those elements out that helped you to boost your former project, and that makes me so more happy to see that the success is there and that it just seems to work. That's a great achievement.
Yeah, I was really nervous about having the goal be 17,000. Even though the last one made over 100. I still felt like, well, if I look at the traffic on Sithra.com, I only post like once a month, and it's only like 200 people a day, I think, maybe not even that. So it's really in comparison to Remind, it's just really minimal, and so, and I'm talking about religion, and that's a topic that offends some people, and so it's not like the same vibe at all that I was given with Remind, where it's like, here's how you can make your own comic, you know. You too can do this. It's like, here's the sales pitch, you know. Instead, I'm focusing on just what things are important to me at the time, you know, and just a lot of it's just because I don't want to be fake anymore, you know. And so to me, like, the book is important. Getting these books done is important because that's what the end product that I wanted, you know, and me talking about the things that I want to talk about versus what you know, what search engine optimization will tell me to talk about. You know? So, but it's very counterintuitive from a business standpoint. You know, it goes against me, but again, I think it goes back to the 1,000 true fans. You know, getting those 1,000 fans who, you know, actually, you know, want to support you and follow you and enjoy what you're doing. You know, it's like I think that can really carry it. And there's no reason why it can't grow and grow and grow and be beyond what Remind was. You know, when by the time Cithra's done, there's no reason why it can't. You know.
Well, I bet you would have wished that you would have a Remind Volume 3 after the Remind 2 campaign. Yeah.
Well, you know, it's funny. A lot of people said that. You know, you got to do number three. And I'm just like, in my mind, I was just so done with it. You know, I was just fried. Yeah. Remind, I was fried with Remind. And so
it would have been a pure business standpoint then.
Yeah, exactly. It would have been what, you know, I see, like, they do at DreamWorks. You know, you make decisions just based on monetary, you know, performance. And I don't. That's not why. Again, it goes back to, that's not why I got into art. You know, to do things that other people, you know, and there's some push and pull. You still have to give people what they want. I can't just draw something really abstract and have no story and blah blah blah. That also doesn't entertain me. So there's no way I would do that, you know. So
so Jason, we are running for over 2 hours now, and I spot one particular question there about the timing of your next Kickstarter campaign. You might say something about that. From Eric, and I would say the other questions are very specific about Wormworld and what prints I might be planning and stuff. I can answer those questions in my own channels, in the comments of my campaign. So we might just cut it at that point when we give our backers some information about the future. And then we might just, end it there. What do you think?
That sounds good.
Guys, I can also send over the questions. I've copied them down, so if we run out of time and questions don't get answered, I'll send them over to you if you want to answer them at a later date.
Sounds good.
That's cool.
Thanks, Adam.
Sounds great.
All right. So should I start with the sit-through question?
Yeah.
Would your next Kickstarter campaign, be in the fall of next year after delivery of Volume 1? That's the plan. I want to deliver everything usually like spring, I guess, of each year. Like April's kind of like my perfect date, sometime in April or May. And then I like the times that I've launched my Kickstarters in the past with Remind 1 and 2, and this one was a little later than I wanted to. So I'd like to always have a campaign around the same time every year, and then it would fund the spring release of the next book, and then it would be fulfilled before the next campaign starts. So yeah, that's what I want to do. If it all works out the way I want it, that's what it'll be.
Yeah, and just to have the information here in one spot, I already said it, but just to recap it, the next Kickstarter campaign for Volume 2 will most likely be at the beginning of 2015, maybe around February, March. And so this will also be at a point when the first books have already been delivered. The cool thing is that we are printing directly in Germany, so as soon as the production of the English layout is ready, the texts are put into the layout, we can go directly to the printer and have the printed volumes directly when they are ready. We don't have to wait for a cargo ship from China or stuff like that. So this actually enables us to deliver all the stuff before Christmas, and that means that when we start with the next Kickstarter campaign, everyone will have the first book in their hands and can see for themselves if they would like to have the series continued.
That's great, man. That's nice to be able to deliver before Christmas. Huh.
Yeah.
I wish I could do that.
Well, technically, you deliver before Christmas next year, so.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much.
One last question to you,
Yeah.
Jason. One last question to you. Do you, because I've got this question from several people when I said, oh, we have a Kickstarter in August. And they asked, isn't this summer vacation time? Is this a good time to have a Kickstarter campaign? What are your thoughts about the best time of year to have a Kickstarter campaign? Because you said you liked the time of year you now had in your previous campaigns.
I don't know what the reason is. I just noticed that with Volume 1 and 2 of Remind, I launched them like the same exact time, and I didn't plan that. It's just how it happened, and then this one was getting to a time when I was like, okay, I want to start launching it, and I started looking into dates, and I was like, I launched Remind 1 and 2 on the same time. So for me, it just fits into my plan of once a year type thing, because then I can work the whole first, after Christmas, I want to just be able to reset and be like, all right, let's start on this new thing, and go. And then towards the end of the year, it's like, all right, I'm seeing the finish line, I'm seeing the ending of whatever I've been collecting. I want to be able to, collect it all up and package it and send it off to the printer before the end of the year, which is like October, November. And send all the files to the printer, and then take that Christmas break and then start on the new thing. So to me, that's all I was thinking about. I wasn't even planning it around when was best.
It feels pretty natural that way.
It's been working really well, and like with the success of my last campaign, that just tells me it works fine. I don't need to make it any more powerful than that.
Maybe you're right. It's not so much the matter when in the year you place it. It may be more important which other campaigns are running besides your own campaign. So this might be a much more important factor than which time of the year it actually is.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I definitely see the advantage of having it running when there's other big campaigns, because everyone's trying to hype their campaign to get people to Kickstarter, and that's the biggest barrier right there. Just getting people to Kickstarter, and Kickstarter will recommend all the popular campaigns to everybody. So if someone's in that mindset of like, oh, what's new on Kickstarter right now, they'll stumble across it as long as that initial launch was successful, So
we're getting some very nice shout outs here in the comments. I guess the best way to wrap this up is to thank all the people that made it possible, right? I mean, this is just amazing. Yeah. This evening here, it's my evening for you, Jason. It's the morning going towards lunchtime. We are doing this around the world, supported by people around the world. It's if you start to think about it, it is mind blowing. And I just don't get me started on this. I want just to give a big, huge thank you to everyone who supports us too. Because I'm also the backer of Jason. I want to get this wonderful book and with as much freebies as possible. and it's I don't know if I even are capable to find the right words here. Yeah. It's just has been such a great time, and
thank you guys for just making this possible. Like, I mean, this is I'm sure it's everyone's childhood dream to create something and have people respond to it, and it's just I don't even know how to compare it to anything. It's such a huge dream come true to just have the response to be able to actually pursue these things. And
Yes.
you know, we couldn't do it at all without you. I mean, yes, there's the internet that makes it possible, but it's because of people actually are giving
No,
some hard-earned money to it, you know.
It is the fact. We said it before. Of course, you're trying to reach thousands of people on the internet, but it boils down to the few hundred people that find you and are so engaged and are so touched by your work that they decide to support you directly with hard cash. That's what it boils down to. So the people to whom we are speaking here, they are the essence, I would say, of all the work we are doing on the internet to reach people. It really boils down to you, and this is something I am deeply grateful for, and thank you very much. Also, thank you for taking the time to listen to us two weird guys here.
Yeah, that's true.
This is awesome. I don't even know how many listeners we had on this live stream. We might find out after the fact, and it's just has been such a great time. And let's do it again sometime in the future, Jason.
Yeah, let's do it. I was going to ask you. You wanted, you know, I know we're talking about it, but we got to keep it going somehow. Fun. All right.
Boy.
Well, thank you again, guys, and have a great rest of the day or evening or middle of the night, wherever you are in the world.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll sign off. I guess if we can figure out how to do it. Adam?